Lord Jesus, you are not a stranger to gatherings of this nature. Although in your day they may not have played golf, you nevertheless were present at gatherings of celebration and mourning. You were there when there was fun and where there was tragedy. So, Lord, it is without reservation that we invite you to be present at this gathering, where we both celebrate the life and mourn the loss of our beloved Steve, who at the right time gave himself into your keeping and walked his last steps with you in his heart. May your presence be tangible and your love enfold us as we commemorate a special creation of yours. Amen. To all those that I have not greeted yet, good afternoon. And for those who don't know me, my name is Pen Schultz, if you want the complete name. And as far as I know, none of Steve's family are gynecologists or cardiologists. If there are any others present, they may leave their phones on vibrate or silent. The rest of you, can you turn them off, please? You may have them in flight mode. Just let us be together at the expense of the rest of the world. It won't take long from my side. And I want to thank Steve's family for allowing us all the privilege of being here, and for me especially, to conduct this memorial service of Steve's life. And I've never done this in a golf club before, so be kind to me. There is a first time for everything. And I was always led to believe that Port Alfred was a drinking village with a fishing problem, but I think golf can give fishing a good run for its money now. Drinking is still ahead, but fishing and golf are dicing for second place. We've gathered here to celebrate the life of Steve, and certainly celebrating his life is part of why we are here. We've also here to begin the process of closure of a life that has ended, and there is sadness in that, as there always is when we say goodbye to somebody that we love. So it's good that we are together here today, because in being together, we can love and support one another through the tears and the laughter, which I'm sure both will prevail, as I ask now those who are paying tribute to Stephen to please come forward, starting with his children.
Can you just hold that so that I can have a...
Sorry, we very disorganized.
Disorganized gardeners, yeah. All right. Steve Gardner was an extraordinary man and set the bar for what it takes to be a gentleman. Where does one even begin? An outstanding husband to my lovely mother, Kim. A hero to all of us kids. Many years back, I can remember my dad standing and saying at his own father's funeral that if he could be half the man his father was, then he would have been a great man. Today I stand here and say he was far beyond that. Humble, wise, and kind are just a few of the immediate characteristics I believe all here today would have experienced. Dad, if I can aspire to be even half the man that you were, then I would be a legend. My father was always been spectacular at giving speeches. He held himself with confidence, composure, and clarity, speaking freely from the heart. One could tell that what he was saying was done with so much thought of what he wanted to say. It says a lot about a man. He gave so much thought and purpose to everything that he did. He always knew how to bring the perfect joke or touch of satire at the right moment to break the ice or just cool a heated argument and make people laugh with his dry sense of humor. I remember how stressed he was about delivering a touching speech for Uncle Russell, and he was concerned that he would crumple under the pressure on stage. Given his health challenges, he stood up and delivered one of the best speeches I had ever heard. So when I was about 12 years old, I remember being at Pine Lake Marina for a family holiday. And for some reason, I wanted to peroxide my hair. I guess that was just the in thing back then. God knows why, but he decided to do his too. Maybe it was just to try an option for the balding head, or maybe just for a laugh with his kiddo. I believe the latter. Or when, at around 14 years old, 14, 16, I'll say 14, he caught a mate and myself in St. Francis at midnight, pissed as two nightcats, trying to walk home after a late evening fishing mission, and just told me, "You're lucky your mother doesn't hear about this." Gave us a wink, a smile, and closed the door, and off he went. There's so much that I could stand here and say about my dad, but this speech would go on for hours. My dad loved his family and would do absolutely anything to make sure his wife and his kids had the best opportunity to enjoy life and succeed. He had a constant desire to teach me what he knew, as if he wanted to teach me through the experience that he had himself. He taught me everything that I know today and how to fix just about anything that needs mending. If you want something done right, then do it yourself, he would always say. I will be forever grateful for his wisdom and knowledge. His passion for the open water and travel encouraged me to live my life to the fullest, seize the day, and take every opportunity to enjoy life. I hope we can try to live our lives with a little life of Steve in every day. Thank you to the Buffalo Club. Dad never missed 1 year. Thank you to the A Company and the AHA Club for all of your support. Thank you to all who traveled far and wide to be here today. And thank you for everyone being here in remembrance of a remarkable man and all those who shared memories with him. Thank you. In the middle for support.
Run if it's recording. There's a saying by an author named John Gregory Brown that says, "There's something like a line of gold thread running through a father's words when he talks to his daughter. And gradually over the years, it gets to be long enough for you to pick up in your hands and weave into a cloth that feels like love itself." My father's cloth wrapped around his entire family. It kept us warm, safe, and most of all, it kept us together. No matter what my father was going through, he always put my family first. The love of my father was not spelled out in single sentences or a defining moment. He lived and let me watch his love in action. We learned how to love from him. The way he spoke, the way he listened, the way he loved my mom, the way in which he guided us, questioned us, and taught us. By now you all would have read and heard what a great man he was and all that he had accomplished. My dad did a lot of things, but I would have to say, in all that he did, family is what he did best. A daughter needs a dad to be the standard against which she will judge all men. And much to my husband's dismay, my dad had set those standards pretty high. My dad was the most humble and hardworking man I have ever known. Many of his actions unknown but benefited most. My husband Devon posted an old Greek proverb that rings so true about my father, and it says, "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they shall never sit in." Dad, In your little time on earth, you planted so many trees in whose shade we all get to sit in today. And we too are forever grateful for that, including this room that we stand in today, which he had a hand in too. I have countless memories with my dad that I'll never forget. The holidays and sailing trips, the late night calls for advice, the willingness to help everyone that were in need, and the patience he had when I couldn't grasp a simple accounting equation he would try and teach me. My favorite memories will always be of us snorkeling and watching sunsets together, and I hope to always hold him in those moments. I will miss the family walks on the beach, the Sunday lunches, the quiet moments just sitting and knowing we were all in each other's presence. We love you. I will miss dialing his number, my helpline, the one phone call that I knew would be answered. But most of all, I will miss you always being there when I needed you most. Taya, Dev, and I prayed every night for Dad, and Taya loved her Dampa, as she called him. She's going to miss sitting on his lap, on his chair, interrupting him while he's watching his sailing videos, demanding Peppa Pig. Dad, I know you are playing golf or sailing in heaven with Uncle Russ, no longer in pain, and taking the meaning of the AHA Club to a whole new level. You've always left you have left behind a massive void that will never be filled, but a legacy that will live on and be shared with your grandchildren. My dad was my king on earth, and in my darkest days when I feel inadequate, unloved, or unworthy, I'll remember whose daughter I am, and I'll straighten my crown. I love you, Dad. Not sure I really want to do this after that.
I'm glad I went first.
Yeah. I wouldn't be where I am today without my dad. I don't know if I'm going to cry. Sorry. Sorry, Ash. He's mentored me through life without even trying and taught me so much. The one thing, obviously, you can see he couldn't get right was teaching any of us accounting. Sorry, Dad, but we just really weren't into it. In my final year of varsity, I'd accepted an offer for a company in Cape Town and was ready to move. And I was then invited to a final round of interviews in Joburg. So, as lo and behold, I went to my dad to ask for advice on what I should be doing. His response was, "Why not go? You never know what will come of it, and at the very least, you'll get a fully paid trip to Joburg and some interview experience." So I ended up taking his advice, which brought an offer that was impossible to turn down. He had a way of bringing sense to all my complications. Dad has given me opportunities that I'll forever be grateful for. I remember a time in university where I asked him if I should take up a waitressing job, even though I'm terrible at it, just to help out a bit to reduce the financial burden on him. His response was, "Just focus on your studies, enjoy your time while you have no responsibilities, get your degree, and then you can work." He knew the future of work that was on its way and wanted to give me some freedom. I obviously understand what a privilege it is to be having that conversation in the first place, but that was Dad, always doing whatever he could for his family and bringing joy to those he loved. My dad was an extremely humble person. You've already heard of his achievements over the past few days, but he would never openly advertise them to anyone. He worked hard. He never looked for anything in return. He could literally do anything. Finances, building, electrical, plumbing, sailing, a jack of all trades, and the master of being a dad. At school, I used to look forward to lunch breaks and break time to be able to stop by his office just to say hi. And even after going to Rhodes, still getting the chance to drive through and visit. And for that time, I'll be truly grateful. I'm also grateful for all the family holidays and sailing trips that Dad planned, and I'll cherish those memories forever. There really aren't words that I feel are extraordinary enough to describe my dad and the impact he's had on my life, our family, and I'm sure all of his friends too. The only words I know fitting are my hero. I'm grateful that I've had such a strong role model that has been able to guide me through my life, always providing words of wisdom and doing whatever he can to make sure we are set up for a good life. The number and quality of people here today is a testament to the man that he was and the lives he's impacted. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today and spending this special day with us. Thank you, Dad, for being extraordinary.
Yeah.
Just banging it on now. Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hugh Randall, and I'm here to reminisce with my two mates, Steve Gardner and Peter Bowles, who passed away. Peter Bowles, who passed away some 4 years ago, and we missed him very badly when that happened. Steve and I did. They are both sitting here together with Russell in this pub somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I can hear the repartee coming backwards and forwards from them. Peter just said, "But you only got one chance to do this, so don't screw it up." And Steve is saying, "It's not too bad here, but the beer is good. They braai every day and we don't have to eat veggies or seafood." So it seems that they are together and very chirpy. I knew Steve from an early age, but the three of us became firm friends in the sanity of the 70s. I drove a bakkie called, that Pete dubbed Boerter's Batterproof Bakkie, probably because of the way I drove it. Mark Warren will probably remember that. Steve sat in the middle because he was the smallest and Pete occupied the suicide seat, as he called it, as we prowled the empty streets at night. Steve, the rule was no girls in front. Girlfriends had to sit on the back. This was our groundbreaking attempt at gender equality, which is so popular today. Steve used to fall asleep easily in those days. I remember him standing at the Grand, beer in hand, then suddenly falling flat on his face, breaking his glasses in the process. We laughed for days about it. Steve's dad, Uncle Frank, not so much. Another time he fell asleep on the long trip back from the Langdon to the spinning reel. Parking Frank's Cortina bakkie firmly between the poles of the spinning reel signs that still stands there today. We thought it was hilarious. Frank, not so much. Talking of the Langdon, Steve met the cutest girl imaginable there one night, and she complained about how cold the rooms were in the annex. Some of you might remember the annex. So Steve, being the kind-hearted chap that he was, climbed through the window to keep her warm. Such was his generous nature. He was quite popular with girls, Steve was. There was one small problem, though. Her mother had joined her daughter to avoid her husband snoring and was a little surprised. when Steve tried to get into bed with her. Steve had to beat a hasty retreat. We fell about laughing. The mother, not so much. The three of us left school in 1975-76. Pete used to rag Steve about going to a school for backward boys and forward girls after Kingswood went co-ed and let boys in. Well, no, it was girls, wasn't it? We, of course, were at that reformatory in King Williamstown. But Pete left there to finish matric in Kimberley, where he achieved the best matric for the year for the whole of Kimberley, winning the De Beers Diamond Bursary as a result. Pete had more brains than the two of us, I think, put together. 1977 saw Pete and Steve at bats together. Pete was already an officer and Steve was one of his raw recruits. I'd just come back from the border with 6i and volunteered for an infantry parachute course run by a Parabat Sergeant Major. So the three of us all jumped out of airplanes in military uniform around the same time. Probably not the second best thing that we'd ever done, as we thought at the time. Steve was badly injured when they did a demo jump for some generals in high wind, and Pete wrecked his knee on a clandestine night jump into Angola to do some nefarious things that Pete did in his life as a recce operator, and had to walk out with a wrecked knee. After a recent knee op, I know the pain he must have gone through. Pete and I went to Rhodes together in 1978, and Steve decided that Rhodes was too close to home, so he went to Natal to do engineering. In first year at the InterVarsity match, Steve, to keep awake, stripped off, lodged a long piece of Sunday Times between his cheeks, which his mates then lit, and he took off like Forrest Gump across the field. The best flaming A ever, they say. This caused some consternation, and Steve's dash across the field was in full Technicolor on the back page of the Sunday Times the next day. And I see that this picture of Steve, Pete, and myself on the back page reminds me of that Sunday Times. Pete and I were very proud of our buddy. Uncle Frank? Not so much. But I have a sneaking feeling that Gift was secretly very proud of her son. Knowing the naughty side of Auntie Gift, which we have learned to love over the years. Our friendship as the Three Musketeers and Elsaby, Kim, and Chris became the First Wives Club. That's no more. Steve and I were devastated by Pete's passing, but now both my mates have received their RTU letters, their return to unit letters, leaving me alone to deal with the insanity of the day. I miss them badly. I have many stories to tell, but I guess I've overstayed my welcome already. So to the whole Gardner family, we share your loss, and especially with dearest Gift, who has suffered a double blow in a year. We love you dearly. So go well, Steve, and keep it down to a dull roar, guys. Russell, just don't let your butt fall asleep. Unexpectedly, trust me, it doesn't end well. To Steve.
You here? I don't have to call you. Thanks.
Het doet het. Was nog een jongens. Maar Tribute to Steve Gardner by Alpha Company 1977-78 of 1 Parachute Battalion. Ek is Klaas Rikkie Hofmeyer en is Jan Volskenk. Ons staan in vir ons staan in vir Neville Wilkins. Dit is 'n voorreg om namens our company huldeblyk aan Steve voor te dra. Daar is al vir 45 jaar 'n besondere breekbare band tussen our company en Steve. In January of 1977, a selected group of young men reported to the elite 1 Parachute Battalion in their quest to win the Maroon Beret and become paratroopers in South Africa known as parabats. Steve was one of them. Thinking back today, Steve might have had a bit more difficult than others to cope. He and all a small group of Englishmen with him. Not fully understanding the language themselves at all times, but specifically the peculiar army talk or dirty talk. I think you know what I mean. And with the annoying corporals also not fluent in English, they more than often ended up embarrassed a bit more than some of us. Imagine being chased around, having to run to a tree in a distance numerous times just to fetch a leaf for the corporal, only to be chased back time and time again to bring another leaf because the leaf presented to the corporal at any one time was not the leaf the corporal ordered in the first place. However, much of this was light, yet that we all went through that. It was not easy, but we endured and overcame the hardship with fun. After much blood, sweat and tears, many who failed, Steve and some of us were awarded the coveted airborne wings and maroon beret. Steve was awarded his wings and beret on 6 May 1977 and became a parabat. This excellent achievement defined the caliber of a man Steve was, his perseverance and ability to overcome personal hardship and pain. But more than that, Steve became one of us, a company, a band of brothers, a brother in arms of life. Wanneer Steve vandag, maar hier op aarde is ons maar tydelike reisigers in die hande van die Here, hoe magtig ons ook al mag dink ons is, parabat of nie, die Here het 'n plan met elkeen van ons. So ook met Steve. In die geval van Steve het die Here egter besluit om nou reeds vir Steve vir diens op te roep. Die Here het roukol gehou en Steve het in die affirmative geantwoord. Wanneer ons vandag vir Steve groet, na 45 jaar van vriendskap, broederskap, vind ons krag en vertroosting in God en God se woord. Our company het in die Bybel spesifiek 1 Samuel 7 vers 12 as kapstok en kompas aangeneem om ons regop te hou en rigting te gee. Die Bybelvers lui soos volg: Die profeet Samuel het 'n klip gevat, dit regop gesit tussen Mispa en Sen. Hy het die plek Ibn-Ese genoem, want hy het gesê, tot nou toe het die Here ons gehelp. Steve is vandag nie meer by ons op aarde nie. Hy het sy hemelse reis sy aardse reis voltooi. Maar tot hiertoe het die Here hom en ook ons gehelp. Ons as our company was bevoorreg om as een groot groep saam met Steve opleiding te kry en valskerm soldate te word. Die Here het ons gelei, nie net in 77, 78 nie, maar ook daarna. Na nasionale diensplig het baie van ons oor baie jare nog saam militêre kampe gedoen. So het die Here heeltyd sy hand van beskerming oor ons gehou. As ons vandag terugdink, kan ons net ewig dankbaar wees dat Steve in April 2017 in Bloemfontein ook die 40-jarige reunie van our company bygewoon het. Die grootste voorreg wat ons egter beleef het om Steve saam met ons te hê, was toe hy net 'n bietjie meer as 2 maande gelede in April 2022 ons vereer het toe hy die 45ste reunie van our company saam met ons deurgebring en gekuier het, terwyl hy reeds baie siek was. As ons vandag aan terugdink, dan kan ons maar net spekuleer, maar wil graag glo dat Steve in sy alwetendheid miskien net vir ons kom groet het. Ons sal nie verbaas wees nie, want dit is die tipe mens wat hy was, 'n gentleman, wat almal rondom hom belangrik en goed laat voel het. Dit het getuig van sy nederigheid, maar ook sy moed, deursettingsvermoë en liefde vir our company. Dit is waarom ons soveel respek vir hom gehad het en so lief was vir hom. Maar ons kan weet, tot hiertoe het die Here ons gehelp, maar die Here sal ook vir Steve help en hy is by hom tot in die ewige lewe. En julle as familie, julle kan weet, die Here sal ook by julle wees in hierdie tyd van hartseer. Hy sal julle troos. Tot hiertoe het die Here ons gehelp, maar hy sal ons en ook vir julle help tot in die ewige lewe. Amongst all of this, helping to us come to terms and cope with the loss of a fellow airborne brother, we believe that Steve, together with those who have gone before him, have done so out of love for their brothers, to prepare the landing zone so that we, by the time we may arrive, also have a soft landing. The motto of us parapets is Ex alto vincimus, oorwin van bo, conquer from above. To conclude, I company's message of hope and support to you, Kim, and the family is, cast your eyes towards the skies, look upon the Lord, and you shall also conquer from above. I company pray for you and your family, and we salute you. We never leave a man behind, not on the battlefield, nor in our hearts, minds, and thoughts. The legacy of Steve shall live on forever within us for as long as we may live. We salute you, Steve. Rest in peace, brother. Airborne forever. Thank you.
Right, afternoon, everyone. Kim, Kelly, Michael, Ashley, and families, and of course, Gift. It is an absolute honor to be asked to say a few words in celebration of the life of Steve Gardner. I had the privilege of working with Steve for 12 years at Kingswood College, where we served together on management. I look back on these days with great fondness. There were long meetings, occasionally difficult ones, filled with thought-provoking topics and much debate. But there was always time for some banter and some amusing comments arising from Steve's wonderful and dry sense of humor. We are all here because we knew Steve, and most of you are well aware of the huge impact, valuable contribution, and incredible legacy he has left at Kingswood. Steve started off as the bursar in 2006, and within a few years this position evolved into business manager, architect, engineer, and even project manager. He was a great leader, a mentor, and a wonderful colleague to work with. He was incredibly popular and a friend to almost everyone at Kingswood. Steve was an astute and exceptional manager of the financial resources of the school, and over the years he made an enormous contribution to the various developments at Kingswood, such as the City Lords project, the reconstruction of the U-Stock swimming pool complex, the Cohen teaching block, the High Performance Centre, and recently the construction of Hobson House. The building projects at the college were metamorphosized during Steve's time at Kingswood, and he has left an indelible mark in almost every area of the school. He had incredible foresight and was methodical in his vision and his planning. Steve's strengths did not only lie in his abilities to manage people, but equally his strong leadership skills. This was evident in his relationship with the staff, with the council, and with the trustees, as well as all other committees on which he served. Always finding time to serve his school, Steve also played an instrumental role in having all of Kingswood's archives digitized in 2016. Thanks to his foresight, Kingswood's heritage is both protected and easily accessible. I'm sure that Steve took more leave than any other business manager in South Africa. But none of us were ever in a position to deny him of this leave when it was requested. He was always on top of his game, and the planning of his numerous golf tours and beloved sailing courses and cruises was exceptional and so well orchestrated. Never did we have a problem in his department while he was sailing around the world. We would eagerly await his return to hear about these wonderful trips and tours. Steve was awarded the Sabisa, which is the South African Bursars Association Umpuntweti Award in 2017, in recognition of his work by the bursars nationally. He played a significant role in Sabisa at both regional and national level, while also having been responsible for the organization of 3 national Sabisa conferences in the Eastern Cape. A number of messages have been received from bursars and business managers from other schools, and these will be shared with the family later. He was indeed a popular man, an outstanding mentor and friend to many of the bursars of South Africa. Steve was an incredibly wise man. He was always humble, was always kind, and even kind when he was saying no to one of the many financial requests that came across his desk. He was a great listener, and even when you were approaching him for something completely out of the budget allowance, he would listen, ask questions, perhaps debate, but he always gave of his time. He was always fair and kind in saying no, and always explained why it could or would not work. And very importantly, people never left his office angry. Kim, Kelly, Michael, Ash, Devon, Septi, Kelby, Taya, Mason, and of course Gift. Thank you for sharing this wonderful man with all of us. We share your grief today. Kim, we know that Steve was your rock and your universe, but you were the wind beneath his sails and the star in his galaxy. You were a pillar of support, filled with energy and love. Your care for him was unfaltering. Steve was so much to everyone. He had an incredible sense of humor and a great love for life. A staunch Kingswoodian who dedicated an excellent service to his school. He was an extraordinary man with a ready smile, engaging personality. And we know, every single one of us here, are all the richer for having known Steve Gardner. We thank him for adding more color to our lives, excuse me, for laughs and good memories, and for leaving his legacy in our world. We have lots to cherish, and this we will do. He was a loyal and wonderful friend to so many. He'll be sorely missed. He'll remain in our hearts forever. Rest in peace, my mate.
Good afternoon, folk. My name's Ian Sawyers, and I think I'm the last speaker. I see heads looking in through this window to see when we're going to be finished. I promise you I won't be long. It's the everlasting battles. It's the pain and the strife, the laughter and smiles. It's the journey called life. Steve and my journey together goes back to our school days at Kingswood. A flu epidemic had burst out in Grahamstown, and we both landed up in the sanatorium together, convalescing. Although Steve was 2 or 3 years younger than me, our friendship started there. And it's unusual because as youngsters, the younger and the older don't often get on together. It's not like we are today, like if you take our Honourable President of the Royal Port Alfred Golf Club. He's 10 years older than me. And besides our difference in age and our IQ, we're still very good friends. Years later, we found ourselves in Port Alfred together, enjoying the same interests: golf, round table, squash, and the AHA Club. For those of you who played golf with Steve, might have noticed that he didn't give up looking for a lost ball very easily. If he hit his ball into the bush, he would go into the heart of the bush and only come out when his four ball was on the next tee. Steve spent 6 years in Port Alfred Round Table 177 and participated with utmost enthusiasm at all occasions. He participated in several international trips and forged an everlasting friendship with Urs Wagner from Kur in Switzerland. And at this stage, I'd just like to read a note that Urs and his wife sent to Kim. Dear Kim, we are terribly sorry to hear from Ian about the passing away of Steve, and we want you to know that our prayers are with you and your family. In this sorrowful time, we would like to send you our heartfelt condolences. It was a privilege and honour having known Steve and becoming friends despite the long distance. He was respected by his friends in PA and in South Africa and worldwide. He was loved by you and his family, and will be treasured in our memories forever. Steve was a founder member of the AHA Club. For those of you who have not heard of the AHA Club, there won't be many from Port Alfred that haven't heard of it. It stands for After Hours Home Avoiders. And it started in 1994 with members meeting on Monday nights from 4:30 to 7 p.m. and currently runs now from Monday to Fridays, same time. Teasing and sledging at the AHA Club is common. It's a common occurrence. And Steve would often pass the following comment: not being picked on is worse than being picked on. Steve participated in the Albany 3rd Squash League, where match fixtures were arranged on a home and away basis with the Grahamstown clubs. According to his captain, Gerard Strydom, his biggest fear was he might lose to a scholar. Apparently, tradition in this team had it that on the away games in Grahamstown, the team would stop at Woodstill around about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at midnight to drop off Justin Stirk, who went off to Southall, and drink a bottle of Old Brown Sherry. And only once the Old Brown Sherry is finished would they proceed to Port Alfred. Steve was a man amongst men, an extremely loyal friend, and a fighter till the end. Goodbye, Steve, until we meet again.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name's Devin. I'm Steve Gardner and Kim Gardner's son-in-law. I know they dropped the ball on that one. I just got to relay some quick messages from family and friends who have sent in some messages, and I'd like to read some. This is from Ray and Annie O'Healy. More than 40 years ago, we connected with Steve at the Durban University, where we spent many memorable and some naughty moments together, including parties in the T. Willie Beer Club that included evenings with lots of beer and very few items of clothing. We are also delighted to be the ones who introduced Steve and Kim on a blind date, which ended up as the most fantastic partnership and 3 beautiful children. We treasure that we were able to visit and spend some time with Steve in May this year, and it's with great sadness that we say goodbye. Our thoughts are with you, Kim, as well as with you, Michael, Ashley, Kelly, and Gift, and we send our condolences. Rest in peace, Steve. That's from Ray and Annie O'Healy. And then I hope I don't choke up on this one, but this one's from Mitch and Sarah Gardner, Uncle Russ's children, Auntie Vicky's children. Uncle Steve, the older I'm getting, more I realize that people leave us eventually, but never in my life did I think that we'd have to endure you leaving us so soon, especially after having just said goodbye to my dear dad, Russell Gardner. You have been a shining light in so many lives, a rock-solid foundation, an unmoving sail in stormy times, and a never-ending support to everyone around you. When I think of you, all I see in my mind is your smiling face, eyes closed tight in happiness, often laughing at something silly my dad said. Your dry sense of humor often left us all in fits of laughter, but I always liked how you and my father would often be laughing long after the joke had ended. You will never be forgotten. Auntie Kim, Kelly, Michael, Ashley, Devon, Septi, Taya, and Mason. There aren't words that can make any of this better. The English language doesn't have a word that completely and truly describes the magnitude of sadness and hurt you are feeling. All I can tell you is that we feel your pain too. Your loss is our loss, just as our loss was yours too. I wish we could all be together as a family right now, and my heart yearns to be home. Mitch and all are thinking of you always. We love you lots. Sarah and Mitch. Thank you to all those who came. There is an open bar, there's food available. Please enjoy your time and let's celebrate Steve. Thank you.
Not much longer. Not much longer, and you can party properly. Just a quick comment. It took me 5 years before I gained permanent membership of that very special squash team. And I will cherish it all my life because I have laughed that the tears ran. I'm going to share some verses from Psalm 139 with you. Apart from it being my most favorite psalm of all 150 of them, it is pertinent to something that Steve said to me about a month or two before he died. But first the psalm. In some translations, it is entitled, The Inescapable God. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all of my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before. You lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. For it was you who formed me in my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet even existed. It is this acceptance and wonder at the inescapability of God that I just love about the psalm. This is not a Kilroy's watching you version of God is watching you. It's about knowing, God knowing the every you and everything about you, and you coming to accept that. The peace it brings is beyond comprehension. and the freedom it brings equally so. And this is what I saw in Steve when he said to me, "Pen, I have finally come to realize that I am in God's hands. No matter what happens now, whichever way it goes, I'm in his hands. I accept that. So be it. There's nothing more to it than that." Steve had come to understand, as our psalmist said, "Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed." We're going to close in prayer now, and then that'll be followed by a toast to Steve and to life, after which you're all going to stand and sing the Kingswood hymn on your funeral notice sheets. So let us pray. You can look for them afterwards. Merciful Father and Lord of life, we thank you that we can rest in the knowledge that we are so known to you. May all of us embrace that knowledge as your precious soul Steve did. And we thank you for his life here with us, and through your love for the new life he now has with you. As thankful as we are for that, Lord, our hearts are hurting that he is no longer with us, especially those of his beloved family. God of love and mercy, deal graciously with them, that they may cast all their cares on you and know the consolation of your love. Grant us, Lord, the wisdom to use aright the time that is left to us here on earth, that our lives may unfold the love that you gave to us through our Lord Jesus Christ, and bring us all into the unending joy of your presence, both now and into eternity. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. Amen. Please stand. And let us raise our glasses and drink a toast to Steve, and in thanks to God for his celebration of the life of one Stephen Gardner. To Steve. And now, for us here today, let us toast in thanks to God for the precious life that we still have. And let us use it well. Amen. L'chaim, to life.